survivors, they're coming home. They float in darkness, they're not alone. Now here they come, now here they come, now they will be received.
No one could outrun the crash. It was all reduced to rubble, and then again to ash. To the blinding burning light, it's no use to fight. There's no one out there. There was no signal from where you were, or failed contact, no life disturbed, hovering above, gravity's law.
Welcome to the Resistance, my brothers. In this video, my objective is to show you how men are manipulated like chess pieces to move you into your own destruction. The winners are few, and the losers are many. Millions have died only to find out in their last days they were pawns. In the days of old, all sorts of rules and regulations were set up to restrict the movement of men. While some of these laws were for the good of mankind and to have order, other laws were only to protect the private interests of a few. It is in these cases that many men have lost their lives blindly by following orders. Here is a question to ponder. Is it wise to take counsel from a sick, declining society? Should you go to the sick and ask them how to be healthy? I'm sure the advice you would receive would be the same they apply to their own lives, which is a revelation to their fragile condition. Let us take a glance at our society's wisdom in this evil generation. Debt for prosperity. Eat now, pay later. Spending over saving. Material wealth over spiritual health. Promiscuity over chastity. Pleasure over temperance. Instant gratification over hard work and patience. Security over freedom. Men are the lifeblood of any society, and without their production, creativity, and innovation, that society would crumble and fall overnight. However, if you want to destroy men, you never go at them directly in a conflict of war, but rather indirectly through their women, who they will willingly die before they harm a hair on their lover's head, because the creators, thinkers, and inventors we call men are conditioned to be absolutely worthless. It is human nature to want to be loved and needed, especially in men. But if you take this away from them, they will move mountains, they will climb skyscrapers, and they will dodge bullets to be accepted. This is the key in which all men are moved. Give him no privileges. Make him earn his every dollar. Let him perform for his wife to the detriment of his own health. And then, and only then, can society say, "Well done." Tell him this hatred for him is tough love. Tell him it's for his own good. Tell him it's for the betterment of society. Take no interest in his values. Take no thought for his purpose. Mold him through your apathy. Then you can make a rugged man into a useful servant. You may think society does this out of cruelty, even though it is indeed cruel. But it does it out of fear. Fear for its own survival. For without men, all nations die. Therefore, it will put men through the fire, ridicule the ones who get burned, scoff at the ones who fail, and honor those who succeed through the flames on the other side victoriously. Only then shall we call you man, for now you are useful to us. Even in a healthy society, boys have had to endure trials with a hard hand, but in today's declining society, men have double the burden as it consumes all its men, gasping to breathe for air. Once enough men are destroyed by eating its own, it collapses. Men going their own way is a survival mechanism designed to not be fleeced or cannibalized. How many countless men have walked on this earth taking no thought for where they walk? How many soldiers took a bullet blindly rather than being asked if he wanted to die for his country? How many fathers were told you can end up fatherless through an iron-handed fist of government? If you take thought for how men are controlled, if you will understand the way societies and governments move us like chess pieces for its own safety and protection, as the men dying 95% in work-related deaths prove, then you can safely maneuver your way out of this rigged game by seeing society for exactly what it is. If you believe it is your God-given right to live in freedom and truth, then you will not condemn me for saying the following. It is your eternal soul with a temporary amount of time and life-changing decisions. You should not be taking bullets for those who care not for your life. You should not be sacrificing for women who care not about your soul. You should not be following a gender role that ends you being put up in the grave. We all have a purpose, but we should not be so willing to throw our lives away thoughtlessly to the cruel or spend it in vain for the honorless. If we, for once in our lives, actually loved our boys, the fear that grips us is that they may stop producing or go elsewhere one day. Hence, in fear, society reacts to put us in extreme conditions in which the individual male gets chastised repeatedly. When he cries over his wounds, you hear the sounds of "man up." When he fails to provide, you hear the disappointing whisper of "I need a real man." Love him only through his utility, and a servant he will be for life. This is why a woman who cheats on her man is never condemned for it, and instead, the man rages and attacks the other man in his stead. For she is his only lover and support, his only refuge of love from a society that turned their backs on him since birth. He surely will not destroy his only place of secret intimacy. Instead, he will see the other man as the oppressor, the destroyer of his place of solitude. It was him who took away his love and acceptance. Death to the traitor! After a man has been purged of nurturing love, He is primed for the next phase of manipulation on a multitude of societal, political, and spiritual fronts. He's attacked on all sides mercilessly. Let us go to the front lines to show you how this blitzkrieg is powerfully effective. On the woman front, he is told to provide endlessly. Then he is given a script to fill to earn his place in life. Society will stand right behind her, so you stand alone and isolated, which means no other voice of reason can be heard. The keys of the title man is given to women, for they will determine who is worthy. Though not a single one of them has ever went through the trials of the fire. Your job is to earn her approval, to accept her love, even if it is a cruel hate, for you are lucky to have her, someone as worthless as yourself. Although it is you who is keeping the world turning, your manhood, which is always in question, is determined by someone who hasn't even felt the filthiness of coal. You will often see her prancing around, rejoicing in her evil narcissism that she is the one giving out the approvals and rejections of real men. She is always right, and your kingship is only because she lets you bear rule, for she needs someone to do the ruling. Though you may think you are the lord of your castle, society will come swiftly to your door should you offend your goddess, and make sure your place in life is well known, O king. With women being the only vulnerability a man is allowed to secretly express the reality that he is human, he will protect her until the day he dies. For he thinks in his heart, she is the only one who really loves me for who I am. Everyone else has tried to mold me, but in her I can find rest. It is only until later, when his goddess has committed adultery, does his soul crack and his heart cringe, and the only warmth of love he has ever felt dies out. Then creeps in despair, then lingers hopelessness. There is no society to turn to for refuge, for they have all shut their doors. There is no government to hold him from falling, only a sneer that he deserves his poverty. His friends disapprove, and his family tells him to try harder. All stare at him with a small paper script in their hands. Man up, ye fool! Man up, and you will earn your love back. Like a romance novel, he tries to win his whore back in vain, for he does not see her as a whore, but a lover gone astray. Get wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, for the commandment is a lamp, and the law is a light, and reproofs of instruction are the way of life, to keep you from the evil woman, from the flattery of tongue of a strange woman. Lust not after her beauty in your heart, neither let her take you with her eyelids, for by means of a whorish woman is a man brought to a piece of bread, and the adulteress will hunt for your precious life. In the age of evil, how many men have been brought to a piece of bread? Hear an old ancient Chinese proverb. If you wonder where the road ahead of you goes, ask somebody coming back. Ask and ponder, where does the road of marriage go today? The men have returned. What is their report? Where does the road of relationships go? The young men have come home. What is their message of warning? They come back saying, relationships are like seasons, starting in spring and ending in winter. Tread not here. And so ends the front lines of womanhood. The Brotherhood Front. The Brotherhood Front is a constant testing of one's own manhood in the sight of his brothers, lest he be ridiculed for being weak. Whereas on the woman front, where a cruel goddess gets to dictate who is a man, the Brotherhood are the enforcers of her decision. Where one should think he could find solace and brotherly love by confiding with another man, he instead is mocked for not playing the twisted game of alpha roulette. He must always prove he is stronger, dumber, and more daring than they all, lest unpleasing eyes be gazed upon him. This double-edged sword, where a man has no refuge from the onslaught of social manipulation, forces him to play along on the outside, while on the inside, the inventor, the creator, the innovator, slowly dies in his spirit, as he is forged to act like a dog, just so he does not get a beating for the day by friends and peers. One way they strongly enforce this poison of one's soul is through homophobia. A hint of weakness or compassion towards another male will be met with a death from above barrage of "you must be gay" slurs that engulf the room itself. No one else dares to stand up for him lest they get similar treatment. Thus the encircling is complete. The encampment has been blockaded. The enforcers isolate not only other men, but themselves from receiving any real help in their life. For the only source of their private matters can be revealed in the socially acceptable manners of giving your secrets to women in hopes that they will have a faithful spirit. The brotherhood is no brotherhood at all, but more of the operations of a gang. Weak members are killed off or dispelled, while stronger members get to rule the roost. This tribalism pushes young teens to commit suicide in earlier stages of life, for they have no comforter. Not only is the brotherhood nothing like the sisterhood in terms of loyalty and collectivism, but its operations are fierce and deadly, encouraging men to do dangerous things to prove their manhood over and over and over again. This is not a spirit of love or unity, but a spirit of confinement, to keep you in your prison of pseudo-masculinity so you can ultimately provide for your woman and society. While women are eyeing for winners, the men have spears behind your back, prodding you to go through the trials of the fire, lest you be unworthy of your title. You will defend it to your last dying days, only to be wished to be accepted and loved for who you were as a human being. And so ends the front lines of the brotherhood. The cultural front is a mass propaganda machine that invades and infiltrates the minds of the masses for molding the youth into an image designed for extortion. Its power lays in its subtlety, and its strong arm lies in a prism mind lock where everyone who is not awake to their own enslavement keeps one another in line. Old wisdom is slowly subverted into new heresies for the damnation of the masses. Freedom fires gave everyone the freedom to have cancer and die an early death. The subversion only needed a taint of good old Americanism, and the people blindly followed patriotically into their own destruction. The cultural front is perhaps the strongest of all the lines in which a man needs to defend himself. Whereas one can live without a woman or not be entreated into a brotherhood, every second of his life he is bombarded with blue pill programming from every area in his life. Television, the internet, movies, video games, radio, books, family, friends, relatives, the schools, government, and all social media, there to invade his privacy and presence, to present to him doctrines of demons to steal away his very essence of humanity and manhood. The creative spirit energy that makes up masculinity and manhood are always 24/7 under surveillance to be watched, manipulated, controlled, and channeled for anyone else's usefulness and purpose other than the man himself, for men are rulers. He must be sacrificed. He must do the sweat and toil. He must pay for the first date. He must open her car door. He must pull the 70-hour workweek job. He must be the one on the front lines defending the nation. He must be the one leading the home where his authority is in the hands of his wife. He must be the one to take all the risks. He must be the one to die for approval and acceptance. The culture for men is a culture of hate. He is used only to the extent in which he can provide for a society that loves him not. Every day they lie to you. They come whispering in your ear, "If you only do this, then we shall unconditionally love you." The man holds his own code and works his way into being approved, only to find out that it is never good enough. There is always one more ladder to climb, one more step to take, one more hour of work to be done. The culture waterboards him into accepting his fate, that he is not strong enough, not powerful enough, not intelligent or cunning enough to be free. Governments fear it. Women despise it. They get you to question it by wondering if you are selfish, yet they are the ones extorting you. Ask yourself this question. How many men died in the labor force today? How many men on the front lines perished? How many men quietly and painfully watched their families crumble and fall to dust, only to have none of it reported on the news or discussed in social settings? Men are not honored, but have their authority stripped. Men are not respected, but are ridiculed. Men are not leaders, but followers of the propaganda of the masses. Good men die every day, and no one blinks. We were free men once, but now slaves to our women and government through indoctrination of lies. Until men see this invasion inside their own homes with their eyes wide open, they have no defense and will be swallowed up whole as a sacrifice to a society that loves them not. And so ends the cultural front. Let us now dispel the myth of manhood, a word that sent billions of men to their deaths for someone else's benefit. All real men have one thing in common. gravel fills their mouths 6 feet under the earth. Let us dispel this myth by asking a question. What is man? Is it someone who has riches and wealth? Not so, for then all men in poverty are not men. Is it someone who is 6 feet tall? Not so, for then all men of short stature are not men. Is it someone who has powerful strength? Not so, for then those men of little strength are not men. Is it someone who has great wisdom and knowledge? Not so, for then those men who have little intellectual capacity are not men. Is it someone who has top physical form? Not so, for then men who have little physical endurance are not men. So then, what is man? What separates the men from the boys is only one thing that all men share in, and that is his character. Though we are not excellent in all things, one thing men possess above all is character, and this makes him a man. Anything else less than this is a tool to manipulate you into your own demise. Now let us ask another question. What is a real woman? Is it her making sandwiches for her husband? Is it being a business career woman? Is it having 3 children to look out for? It is none of these things. What separates the girls from the ladies is also her character. It separates the wise from the unwise for all who have character. So, gentlemen, now no one can manipulate you to go through the trials of the fire any longer or question your manhood. If you have character, you are already a man and will forever be so. Live free or die trying, because slavery isn't worth living for.